He covers the coaching searches as well. It's LandryFootball.com. Chris, Nick Saban is up to Nick Saban-type things in Tuscaloosa again.
Well, yeah, and, I think that last year was kind of a learning process for everybody on how the early signing period was. I know that no one really knew. Coaches didn't really know what percentage of the kids would sign in the early period last year. I mean, really. I mean, they didn't know if it'd be 40, 50, and end up being, over 70%. And this is the new signing period. So with that in place, no one is going to do a better job with the staff that they have of making sure that they're on top of things, and they've done that. This is probably as good a class as he's ever had, which is saying an awful lot. Just a tremendous class. I think the story is, kind of what A&M is doing because I think it's become old hat for Alabama, but, what Georgia's doing, what A&M is doing, and just overall what the SEC is. I mean, for folks that you sit there and let's take a school like Arkansas. They've had a really good recruiting class, a top 20 recruiting class. They're probably 6th or 7th in the West. I mean,
it's
a top 20 class. I mean, and so how do you're LSU, you got a top 10 class, and you're third best in the West? I mean, you have to look at it that way because that is your competition, and that's why, you look at A&M, and A&M has just been, I think head and shoulders above Oklahoma and Texas. But Oklahoma and Texas are fighting in the Big 12, and A&M is having to challenge to get to where Alabama is. So it is a great day for the SEC, but overall, it is a tough climb to try to get to the top. I mean, it is really, really tough.
We're right now talking with Chris Landry from LandryFootball.com. And speaking of the SEC West, is this another sign that Texas A&M has closed it, if not surpassed? I mean, you've always kind of looked at it, Alabama, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, whatever order you want to put in there. But is now Texas A&M becoming a part of the conversation because now they're the second as far as in recruiting rankings across the country?
Well, they are. The issue is you got to do it every year now. I mean, if they're going to, in terms of resources, nobody can out-resource financially A&M. I mean, they're as good as anybody. They've not had the right coach, and I think they've got the right coach now. And I'm on record saying I think this is going to be the second-best program in the West. This is the program that I expect to be consistently number 2. Now, I expect it to be, but they've got to go out and have this type of class every year. They've got to do what Georgia is doing, and that is every year now, and this is Kirby's third year, he does that in College Station, then absolutely they're going to be the second best, and they'll, Auburn, LSU, will continue to look up towards them. But if you have drop-offs, we know that can change. So I think you've got to have the resources. They've got them, the facilities, the staff, and I think Jimbo is a really outstanding coach and probably the closest to just about anybody in terms of how he runs a program to Saban. He and Kirby are the most like him.
When you look at Nick Saban, how much of his evaluation, the way that he evaluates talent, goes back to his days of the NFL, the way that you guys grade players, the way that fits in? Because we've talked to you about this before, but I think it's evident when you look at him continue to do what he's able to do. I mean, he's one of the best evaluators this sport's ever seen on the college side.
Yeah, I know when he went to Michigan State, I spent some time with him and his staff, and he took basically the scouting criteria, the critical factors in the position specific, and for each position, and he created a formula of how he wanted to evaluate. And then when he came to LSU, we polished that off a little bit and continued to improve upon it. And he's done that even more so, since he's been at Alabama. And it really does go back to it. And the and I think that is the most underappreciated and underreported part. We can talk about who's number 1 and who's number 5 and who's this and that. What are the classes are going to look like 2 years from now? Well, Alabama's shown that you can have the number 1 class, but when you're able to evaluate players correctly on and off the field and find the right type of guys, then you can turn around in 2-3 years from now, see that those guys end up, having great careers, going into the NFL. But so many of these other classes end up with top 5 classes, and then they end up leaving. I mean, look at A&M under Kevin Sumlin. Now, they didn't have this type of class, but they had the Myles Garrett class was the top 4 class. Those guys were gone. It's not much discipline in the program, not much organization, and there you go. So what good does it do if you're going to have, 4 of those guys have academic problems, another 2 or 3 have off-the-field problems, and then you have a couple of them that want to transfer for whatever. All of a sudden, that's nowhere near the class that you signed. So I think when people say, oh, well, it's easy when you get the best players. No, it's not easy to get the best players, to identify the right players, to offer the right kids, to get them to come. And a big reason why they're able to get the players to buy in is because of the success. Well, that is kind of a revolving process in which, players come there. Every player that Nick Saban has recruited that stayed there 4 years. Now, most don't stay 4 years now. But everyone that he's recruited at LSU at Alabama has won at least one national title. So here's what if you go to Alabama, you're going to win a title. If you put in your time, you're going to get a degree. And if you have the ability to play pro football, you're going to be developed as well as you can be developed. And if you put your work into it, well, what else is there? I mean, there's, I guess if you want to live on the beach or whatever, maybe there's other places for you. But if you really are interested in football and in the life after football and a degree to augment that and help that when your career is over, it's as good a place as you can be because of who's there. So to me, that is what's key is how you evaluate certain guys and what he does defensively in particular in his evaluation process. To a T, he has a certain criteria for what he wants in a corner, in a linebacker, in an end, in a tackle. He's more flexible with offensive guys, playmakers. He'll adjust a little bit. He'll take the Jalen Waddle type receivers or the Julio Jones type receivers. Of course, receivers are come in different styles. The wide guys, the guys that can play the X position, the Y position, the Z position, the slot position. They've got all different types and shapes now. So, and we've seen what he's adjusted the quarterback spot. So I think it is a tremendous amount to do with how he has set the critical factors and learned the critical factors. Because I can tell you, for people who talk about Saban, I don't think he gets enough credit for learning and adjusting. When he was early on in his career in Cleveland, he was not that good of an evaluator. I mean, he killed everybody. I mean, he didn't like anybody. I remember being on the road with him, and we were out scouting and looking at players prior to the draft. I mean, he didn't like this guy. He didn't like that guy. He looked at it as this guy can't do that. And over time, he learned from Belichick, it's what can a guy do, because there are no perfect players. And I think he's become the very best at it in college at evaluating and teaching his staff how they evaluate. And that's why they're so good. They have a large staff, but they're trained to see guys a certain way and write up players a certain way, so it really minimizes any guys falling through the creases or any overrating or underrating of players, because you have to fit a certain criteria to fit that position.
I want to talk to all those professional procrastinators right now. You guys are out there looking for that special Christmas gift, for that stocking stuffer. Let me invite you if you've got that college football fan that wants to go deeper, right? You want to go deeper into the college and the NFL teams, whether it's the draft that we're going to be upcoming, whether it's the recruiting season, the coaching searches. Learn what NFL teams and college programs already know by joining LandryFootball.com today, and now get an even greater holiday discount, a perfect holiday gift for you and your loved one that gives all year long. So that great stocking stuffer, that great present that you can wrap up and say, hey, this is something unique for 12 months, from the film room analysis on the remaining college and NFL games this football season to the analysis of the college recruiting classes, upcoming NFL draft classes, free agency, all the inside information from around the college and NFL teams that Chris works with daily. It's LandryFootball.com and all the coaching searches, because we're going to watch some of these dominoes begin to fall in the assistant coaching rankings, and it's going to be very close to get some of that key information. It is less than a magazine subscription, and now even with a greater holiday discount, all you have to do is to tell them that you heard it right here on Tide 102.9, LandryFootball.com. LandryFootball.com. Chris, how much has your opinion changed of Oklahoma and Alabama as we get a little bit closer to time? Let's just say back when it was first announced and where we are now 10 days away.
No, nothing's changed. I mean, the teams haven't changed. I think the only variable would be the health of Alabama's quarterbacks. And, we've at least getting the initial reports of Tua moving well, and assuming Jalen's doing a good job. That's really the only thing that might determine it. I still am curious to see how Alabama plays this game plan-wise offensively. I still think ball control, running the football, as the dominant impact, and I think they'll throw it a good bit. Don't get me wrong, but it'll be set up by the run game. I think that's the direction that I would go if I were them. And I think that's probably going to be the way they do it. Nothing's really changed at all. I think that if they are not as healthy at quarterback, it may have a little bit of effect. That would be the only thing.
Chris, is there only one way that Oklahoma can win this game? Do they have to kind of force a shootout? I mean, is that what favors them the most?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that they have to try to force the issues, and I think defensively they're not really good at getting stops, but they have had at times some success at creating turnovers. Well, if they can create turnovers, then that's what they've got to do in addition to forcing the tempo to where they can get it into multiple possessions offensively for them, steal a couple of possessions away from them. Just the opposite of what Alabama wants to do, keep Oklahoma's offense off the field. Oklahoma wants to find a way to get the ball on offense, score it, and obviously get some turnovers so that they can get some extra possessions. They have to get off the field defensively, and can they do that enough? That's what they're going to have to do. The other thing that they're going to have to be successful with is on special teams. They're going to have to find a way to make some plays there and maybe force a long field for Alabama, get them out of bad field position in which maybe they can be a little bit more aggressive on defense. I think that they're going to be hyper-aggressive. I think that they're going to have to take a ton of chances, and so Alabama will have to be prepared for some unscouted looks. If I were Oklahoma and I were playing in the game plan for them, I would be would bring a lot of different blitz pressures, what we call unscouted looks, things that we've not done this year. I would run them at Alabama and try to force the issue and try to create some turnovers. That's the really only formula that I see them having enough success defensively to stop Alabama.
Chris, how concerned are you that maybe Oklahoma will find success? Georgia was able to find success in the middle of the field against Alabama's defense. How concerned will you be if you're from an Alabama perspective that maybe you can catch those linebackers in coverage because their eyes are going to be glued on Kyler Murray, but also trying to cover the middle of the field, try to keep those guys, maybe linebackers in coverage?
Well, it's a concern, but, I mean, I think that, Georgia did a better job adjusting in the second half. I think Alabama will learn from it, frankly. I think that, listen, it is not easy. It is not in any way disrespectful to say that of Oklahoma to say that Alabama's better, but I do think that their offense is very capable of moving the football against anybody, including Alabama. How well, that's going to be the challenge. I think their offensive line is very good and can protect. And Murray can certainly make some plays with his feet. And they've got receivers that can beat you. So I think it is going to be a challenge. And I think they're going to have to tackle well. And I think they're going to have to, find a way to be able to defend the run with 7 and play split safeties. If Alabama can play split safeties, I think they'll be able to come up and tackle well after the catch. If they have to deploy an extra guy into the box, that's where it becomes a little bit more dangerous, and you maybe get a linebacker on a slot receiver or a tight end, a wide flex guy that can become a problem in limiting the big plays. So, yeah, I think it's a challenge. It's not easy, but I think they're very capable of doing it, and I think that they'll learn from, I think, how Georgia, at least I would certainly spend a lot of time looking at what Georgia did schematically against that offense last year. There's some things, even though the different quarterback and some different personnel for Oklahoma, some of the things that they did, defensively, Georgia against Oklahoma in the first half didn't work very well, and I thought defensively in the second half they made some really good adjustments.
Chris, I know we're gonna talk one more time, but are you leaning one way in this game? I mean, do you think Vegas is all over this with 14 points? Do you think it's going to be a little closer to this? Do you have a early lean?
I haven't really thought so much about the point spread. I do think as I get my write-up, it'll probably be in that neighborhood of this, in terms of how I see it. I don't know. I don't see as many points as some people are talking about. I mean, I don't see it as this, well, Oklahoma will score 45 points against Alabama and Alabama will score 7. I don't see that. I see this game a little differently than most people do. I think that Oklahoma will score some points, but I'd be surprised if they get into that 40 range. I mean, I think it could be high 20s, maybe 30s. I think Alabama will control this game at the line of scrimmage. I think if they get into a shootout, it becomes a little bit more dangerous. Then again, you're playing into Oklahoma's hands. Then you're having to win in a shootout. I think that's an unnecessary risk in my view. So I kind of see it as Alabama eventually pulling away because they're able to control the line of scrimmage, particularly with the running game, kind of shorten the game and limit Oklahoma's possession. That's kind of how I see the game, and I haven't really. We'll have it up on the website when I kind of decide the score. But if I kind of put it up, probably would put it in, I don't know, kind of that 38-40 to kind of the 28-30 range. I mean, kind of so maybe in that 10 to 14 point range is kind of where I see probably more along the line of 2-touchdown advantage for Alabama.
Chris, talk about LandryFootball.com as we close out this conversation.
Well, we're really excited about it. Obviously, we're working a lot today on recruiting, and what we like to do is let the dust settle on that, and there's all the commitments, and we already have the breakdown of going into today how the classes stacked up. We're going to have scouting reports on the complete classes. Of course, we'll have it even again in February when it's really completely done. But we're covering that, obviously. We're focusing a lot on all these bowl games and these evaluation of these bowl games. Obviously, the stretch run of the NFL season, and it never really ends. It goes into that process of the bowl games, and then it's the All-Star games, it's the draft, it's free agency, it's recruiting, and it's all year long evaluation. So the coaching search stuff will continue as it results into the assistant coaches. So we've got our pulse on that and involved in that. So it's a great opportunity. We've got our holiday discount that you've been so kind to mention. It's the best discount we've ever had for a year membership. It's a great gift for yourself, for a loved one. So check it out there. And got a great opportunity, too. We've started up a War Room newsletter for those that we'll send out once a week. And all you got to do, that's free. You can subscribe up on the website. Just send us your email, and we'll put you on the list there. So we're excited about what we're doing. A lot of exciting things planned, but it's one-stop shopping football, and we study it from guys coming into the college level, through the college game, through the pro game, and the coaching and scouting side of it, taking you inside the film room. One-stop shopping football. You like football, you'll love LandryFootball.com.
football views from a coach's scout and administrator, LandryFootball.com. Hey, Chris, thanks for being flexible today, because when Nick says jump, we say how high and what time. He said 4 o'clock. We said 4 o'clock. We're going to have to ask Chris to move a couple of minutes early. We appreciate you for being flexible.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate it, and enjoy. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to
you and all your great listeners. Be safe out there if you're traveling. And I keep having to remind myself it'll be by next week Christmas will be over. So Merry Christmas. I almost forgot to say that.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you. Next time we talk, we'll be down in Miami. Thank you, Chris.
You bet. Take care.